Okay, all right. You've landed on Island 49. I'm your host, Weston Smith. As promised, just back to kind of recap day three of the 2023 NFL draft. So rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 for the San Francisco 49ers. Um, Biggest surprise for me is that we made all six selections. I had mentioned previously that I thought there was an opportunity where they could be really conscious of players that they wanted to target, maybe at some positions of need, package some of those later picks and even some later picks next year potentially to slide up and down the draft board. But they stood pat and made all six of their selections. I'll say this: good, not great, but the bar was low considering what took place the evening prior in rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. I think they took the opportunity to target some positions of need. I think we could have done a better job. I'll talk about, one of the biggest shocks for me outside of just making all six selections was the lack of addressing a very particular position. But again, all six picks were made. So in round 5, pick number 155, you had Darrell Luter Jr., the cornerback from South Alabama. And later in round 5, pick 173, you had defensive lineman Robert Beal Jr. from Georgia. In round 6, 216 overall, linebacker D Winters from TCU. In round 7, first pick in round 7 for them, 247 overall, tight end Braden Willis from Oklahoma. Again in round 7, 253 overall, wide receiver Ronnie Bell from Michigan. And then to cap it off, round 7, 255 overall, linebacker Jalen Graham from Purdue. So let's pull these apart. It's a little harder, admittedly, to kind of keep pace with all the collegiate athletes that might garnish later round picks. Obviously, really easy to scout and get tape on, some of your first and second round talent. But here in round 5, 155 overall, Darrell Lutu Jr. from South Alabama. Admittedly, don't watch a lot of South Alabama football. From everything that I can tell, I'll start here. Position of need. I think we absolutely need depth at the cornerback position. I think you need opportunistic players that fit the build and have a knack for finding the football. Can't help but feel like Steve Wilks probably had a lot to do with some of these defensive players that came off the board in rounds 4 through 7. But, around Luter Jr., great name, right? D-back who's out there looting you. He's all Sun Belt Conference. I think he picked off, 4 or 5 passes in his career as a starter. So we'll see. He's going to compete for a roster spot. And he's certainly, I think all these folks here have opportunity to play on specials. But depth was surely needed. Again, better. We're targeting the right positions here. I'm feeling a little bit more confident. You're going to notice a common theme across some of these folks, though, as well. So if you get to the next pick in round 5, 173 overall, defensive lineman Robert Beal Jr. from Georgia. He's an edge guy. I just remember a strip sack fumble in the SEC championship game in this past season. And I got it written down here so I won't remember fully, but he's 6'4", almost 250, ran a 4.48 40. So you're talking about high-end athletic traits on this individual. So, hey, let's take a risk. Put him with Chris Kasurek, see how that goes. Can he mend and mold that individual? Still raw from a pure talent standpoint, but the intangibles, that's a big man moving at fast speeds. If you can tweak some aspects of his game, opportunity to make an impact, especially from a round 5 pick. So happy here. I understand it. Plus side traits. I think that's, here's the giveaway. I think that's the concept around, a lot of these picks. And even when you slide into the 6th round, 216 overall, D Winters, the linebacker from TCU, another guy. Again, I have him written down. Undersized, 5'11", 227, ran a 4.49 40 as a linebacker. So definitely probably is better suited, at least size and build is like a safety in the NFL, but that's the new modern day, off the ball backers is they're just able to fly sideline to sideline, explode right through those holes and he'll have opportunity. And then I trust we've done a pretty good job under this regime in developing late round linebacker talent to be premier players. in the NFL. So I like this. I remember him having a big game against Michigan in the college playoff semifinal, the game that TCU won over Michigan. So I think he's going to provide some impact. Either way, I think he finds to the 53, and this guy's playing special teams. That kind of build, that kind of body, that kind of speed, a lot of experience in the collegiate level. I see him making an impact on specials right out of the gate. And then we get into round 7, and arguably, I think we took with the first pick that we had in round 7, a more impactful tight end, at least immediately, than we probably plucked late in round 3. The tight end from Oklahoma, Braden Willis. Big guy, 6'3", 241, feels very much like an H-back, not uber athletic, but a very talented blocker. We'd run a lot of 2 tight end personnel. Wouldn't be surprised to see this guy, midway through the season, find his way onto the field, opposite George Kittle. And just now you're playing with 6 and 7 offensive linemen. When you're trying to wear down a team and, bolster the running game, great opportunity here. I think while the previous tight end, Cameron Latou, he's definitely probably has better skills, but I think he's more of a long-term project. And I think the way that any other tight end outside George Kittle finds their way on the field is being a really solid blocker and a little bit of competency in the passing game. And I think Braden Willis is going to have that opportunity to see the field much sooner. Just don't know if his upside is as high as the tight end from Alabama. Favorite pick that we made in this entire draft is 253 overall in the 7th round with wide receiver Ronnie Bell from Michigan. To me, just like Mr. Reliable. We get a lot of Michigan games out here on the East Coast. I'm sure the rest of the country does as well. They're a big ticket item for primetime games. That being said, I know he's a little undersized, 6 foot. Maybe he's 6 foot. Maybe he's 190 pounds. He's not a blazer. He's a 4'5", high 4'5", 40 guy, but he's just reliable. And he makes a lot of, I would say, crucial catches and big time plays as well, and contested catches. He's got what I think it was like almost a 39-inch vertical leap, so he can certainly get up and go get the ball, even if he is a little bit undersized, so he can play bigger than he is. He times his leaps really, really well. And I'd argue there's been a lot of inconsistent play out of the quarterback position over at Michigan. One of the detriments as to why, they find themselves in the collegiate playoffs, but never really getting over the mountain. But I find Ronnie Bell to be slept on tremendously. I think his size discounts him. The lack of just breakaway speed discounts him in this day and age as a wide receiver. But I think this is another guy who has a great opportunity to crack the 53 really early in his rookie season. I think he's crafty. He's very experienced, and this coaching staff will love kind of planting him over the middle and dragging him across the field and watching him getting open as I would say a safety net for whomever might be quarterbacking the 49ers in the 2023 season. And then the final pick, double down on the linebackers, Jalen Graham out of Purdue. Admittedly, I just know he has experience. I could rattle off statistics for you. I know he played in the Big Ten, but somebody that didn't watch a lot of tape on, I'll reserve the right to, put at least my 2 cents out there based on what I see, but I haven't seen much, just kind of letting you know where we rounded out in the draft. I'll get to the undrafted free agents in just a second here, but perplexing, like I said, good, not great. Better than the day before. The bar was set rather low. Some positions of need. I do think that you should always be adding wide receiver talent to your team, and I love the addition of Ronnie Bell. Just think he's a good football player. I know we need depth at the defensive back. So if you go back to Luter Jr., like that pick, addressing the edge. Where I'm the most perplexed, with Beal, where I'm most perplexed is we didn't really see any offensive linemen. There was some talented offensive linemen that went early in the 4th, even early in the 5th, that if you really had them on your big board in those draft rooms, you didn't want to pack. I mean, we need depth there. Regardless if you think you have your starting 5, we've battled that war of attrition year over year. Are we really putting all of our eggs in our basket of who we drafted late in the draft last year, some undrafted free agents from last season, and maybe some undrafted free agents from this post-draft as well? I just find that perplexing. Why we're having this quarterback controversy due to injuries to both of the young quarterbacks. I just would find this to be an opportunity to try to find somebody to solidify. I think the biggest problem I have with this overall, and part of this is based on where we were drafting, is I think Kyle and John are so reliant upon finding those diamonds in the rough, which they have. I'll give them credit. They have done well in the past with finding a fifth round gem in George Kittle, right? A late third in Fred Warner and watching him blossom, a fifth in Dre Greenlaw, Elijah Mitchell, the list, Spencer Burford, like the list goes on. Like Talanoa Hufanga, they have found Demo, they have found contributing talent in the back half of the draft before. But some of these picks just feel like an arrogance around that I'm gonna have the ability to do that again, and I don't need to go find a top shelf player. I know the team is stacked. I know there are not necessarily roster spots to be quote unquote had, but yeah, they are. Every roster spot is up for grabs. If you get outplayed by a superior talent, so be it. You know what I mean? I don't care if you've been there for a year, 2 years. I hate going back to the old Jim Harbaugh mantra, but iron sharpens iron. Like, let's not concede. Let's just go find the best talent that we can. And I'm not claiming to know more than, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and all these scouts that are out there doing it. Like, that's their job, right? They live and breathe this. I'm just giving you my opinion on how I feel about it, how I see it. And I think I would have done some things differently. But all in all, walking out of rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, I feel better than how I felt at the end of round 3. It just felt a little bit more like maybe there is the diamond in the rough. Maybe there is that contributor that's low cost and all of a sudden becomes a budding, a potential budding star in the league. And I think they went for elite characteristics, right? You're hearing things, team captains, leaders, right? That's what you see on the Daniel Jeremiah boards, et cetera. I think that's what they're looking for, who would fit with the 49er mantra. I'm just still perplexed about the lack of addressing the offensive line amongst the 11 draft picks that we had. We made 9 in total. Now the undrafted free agent perspective. So I'm going to have to read this off. I'll apologize because I don't have them memorized off the top of my head. But here's where they started to address the offensive line a little bit more. Joey Fisher, an offensive lineman out of Shepherd University. D2 school, all intents and purposes, everything you hear was that he was a combine snub. He actually, if you put his workout statistics against those that took place at the combine, he outperformed every offensive lineman essentially in every drill, if you will. But those are characteristics, those are traits. What does that amount to? Have no idea. I know some people had him pegged to definitely get drafted and he wasn't. So maybe there's a diamond in the rough or a win there, somebody who contribute 2, 3, 4 years down the line. Another offensive lineman out of Hawaii, Il Manning, started 40 plus games at left tackle. So now we're talking experienced individuals at the actual position, some depth pieces, some camp bodies. See how it goes. Another offensive piece, center Corey Luciano from Washington, played in the Pac-12. Gotta like that. Finds his way to an NFL roster to start here. Not a bad look for that individual. But again, what do we know? Undrafted free agent. Let's see how this plays out. Potential depth behind Brunskill, although I don't see them carrying 2 centers, on game day. So let's see how that works. Fullback Jack Coletto from Oregon State. This guy's played fullback. He's played linebacker. I think he's just kind of a nice little tool to have. Probably grooming in the weight to see, what goes on with Juszczyk, a year or two. This just feels like a practice squad stash. Best case scenario for Jack Coletto. And then here's where we get into, some funner names, back to the old Shanahan mantra. Good news, no running back drafted in the 3rd round or in any portion of this draft by the San Francisco 49ers. 2 undrafted free agent running backs. You got Ronald DeWatt from UTEP and Kalan LeBourne from Marshall. You all know what the Shanahan family has done in the past with undrafted running backs. And that's why we were always so perplexed when they were spending 3rd round picks in consecutive years. Like, look at the production you have gotten from undrafted players in the past. Like, why not go to the well another time? And this time it feels a little bit more consistent with their lineage at the running back position. Then you also have more defensive back depth. This is more prudent for camp, right? Injury, etc. So you have Deshaun Jameson, played at Texas. You have Avery Young, comes out of Rutgers. Avery Young's an interesting piece. I'm a New Jersey guy, so pretty familiar with Rutgers football. Big body defensive back, 6'1 plus, 200-pound plus, has played basically every position in the defensive backfield, so feels very much like a Steve Wilks kind of guy, kind of chameleon-esque, and can blend them, and has an opportunity. I think, that the well-roundedness of his game gives him an opportunity, whether it's on specials, an injury. We'll see. Maybe I'm biased because just again played his collegiate ball here in New Jersey. You have a defensive lineman, Spence Wage from North Dakota State, former Trey Lance teammate. See how that plans out. Admittedly, don't know much about him at all. And then the last piece was a linebacker, Mariano Sori-Marin from Minnesota. I know there was a talk of a wide receiver, Jadakiss. I've seen some jokes out there, but then he refuted that the 49ers did actually sign him to an undrafted free agent contract. So that's where we are. Again, I always refrain on giving grades. I like to look back on the drafts 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And even then, like, who cares, right? You're moving on to the next draft. Totally get it. Day 3 looked better, but I'm not thrilled. I think there was an opportunity based on having 11 picks, which is something that you don't have often in a draft, to package and find 6 or 7 players, right? 6 or 7 players that you're either stashing, right, or have their way to find themselves into the lineup in some capacity because they excel. We see this all the time. Lower level competition, folks that are slept on, at the collegiate level, just need an opportunity to shine, and they mature right before your eyes, right on the football field. When they can get that attention from the coaching staff that you can get at the NFL level to maximize their talent. So we'll see. But by and large, I think there's still some holes to be filled on this team. I stand by my belief that the reality is what our most immediate competition in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles and Seattle Seahawks, at least to me through this draft on paper, got better. I mean, you saw Jeffrey Lurie out there and doing it all over again. Howie Roseman, and now let's bring another talented running back to the stable after we just lost Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift in making that trade. So, and you can argue that they don't have many holes to fill either, even with an exodus of talent, because they had people on the back burner. So, I see us. I don't want to say we took a step backwards. It's hard to say you took a step backwards when you add actual physical bodies to the team and you don't know what they are yet. I'll say we're status quo as we were heading into the draft. And for me, it feels like the two most immediate teams that provide us difficulty that we play one twice this year, one once this year in the regular season. They got better. No way around it. They drafted well. They did very well with their picks. So we'll see how it plays out. We've got a long time from now until camp, until the regular season or preseason games and then the regular season. But by and large, appreciate you tuning in to Island 49. Help me out. Please hit the like. Please subscribe. Sign up for those notifications. Leave comments. Do my best to be active with y'all. I know we're not all going to agree. I know you'll label me as a GM sitting in the basement of my house. You're correct. Sitting in the basement of my house, but certainly not. Don't consider myself a general manager of any team. I'm just a big fan who just wants to talk ball, and I'm just going to give you my opinion. And I welcome all opinions. You won't get shit on because of your opinion. We all see things through a different lens, but that's part of the fun of being a fan, not taking it too personal. And let's just have good conversation. So again, I'm Weston Smith. Appreciate you tuning into Island 49. I'll be back to recap the draft under my own accord, and I certainly expect over the next week or two I'm going to have a couple guests here, and we'll talk about how we think the 49ers fare moving forward, most notably coming out of the draft. Till next time.